Welcome, everyone. I'm Michelle Novak, founder of Cardinal Byte Cybersecurity and Risk Management Company. I welcome everybody aboard today. I'm looking forward to sharing with you the 15-minute Cyber Shield tidbits so that you can learn how to protect your organization and your firm. If you're a CPA, tax professional, accountant, or bookkeeper, you know that your EFIN is your livelihood. But right now, the IRS is changing the rules. So today I'm going to show you how to build a 15-minute Cyber Shield, a way to satisfy the IRS 4557 and FTC Safeguard rules, and audit-proof your practice without having to become a tech genius or spend 40 hours reading manuals. This training applies to other licensed professionals as well, so just keep that in mind. But I welcome everybody. So some housekeeping rules before we begin today. Let's just make sure that we keep our audio on mute. Make sure that we keep our videos on. I will ask that if you have questions, please put them in the chat. And when we finish this presentation today, we'll certainly answer all of your questions in the chat at the end. So let's begin without any further ado. So here's our agenda today. First of all, we're going to look at the IRS loophole, how to meet the requirements with simple settings you already own. Second, we're going to talk about the AI vault using Agentic technology to guard your data while you sleep. Finally, the ghost exit, how to stop your liability breach the moment tax season ends. We'll wrap up with the specific checklist and steps you can take to implement today. So I'm going to ask everybody, if you need to take notes, surely do that. This is a live recording. It'll certainly be available at the end, and we're going to send this deck to everybody who's attending today, as well as a couple of checklists to keep you safe and sound. So, what are we solving to today, right? The $50,000 fine. So before we begin, I want to share with you a kind of a story that happened a couple of weeks ago. I met a new client. She begins to tell me how her client paid a $40,000 invoice to a hacker. It's what we call a BEC, or a business email compromise, which is, by the way, the #1 threat alongside wire fraud today for small businesses. What I found interesting, though, is that she had a WISP, she had her firewall, she was using an MSP, but what she didn't have was the human firewall, the process of using a safe word before funds are transferred. And we're going to talk a lot about that today. You know, I've worked with over 100 clients, and they all tell me the same thing. My IT guy is handling it. Well, let's be clear. There's a difference between what I do and what your IT guy does. That is risk and compliance. He handles the networking, setting up your devices, getting you out of the black screens. If you need a reset password, you know, installing your servers. We build a shield to help you pass the audit and build the gap between hardware and IRS legal requirements. You know, stop spending hours using ChatGPT or Google to figure out how to document your assets and classify them on a WISP, and still trying to figure out if you did it right. We're going to provide you the WISP and IRP plans that are built specifically for your business if you're interested. And we'll talk about that more later. I also want to share another incident that just happened a couple of weeks ago. One of my clients, he's a 30-year veteran in his profession. He's a pillar of the community, on top of his game, right? He just had his EFIN suspended in the middle of tax season because he couldn't produce access and control logs to the IRS auditor. The truth was, he thought his IT guy handled it because they set up everything else, his firewall, his VPN, his MFA. But the truth was, they don't handle the documentation end of it. They don't track what's going on in your systems. And that is what the IRS and the FTC are doing today. They are shifting their logic. It's no longer about having things in place. It's about how you govern what you have in place and making sure that you can prove that you're doing the steps that you say you're doing. So if you say you have MFA in place, make sure that it's applied. But when you DIY it yourself and you spend a lot of time trying to decipher the IRS Security 6 and the FTC requirements, you are not a technical director. You're a licensed professional. So let us help you build a shield and give you back billable hours so you can build your business and serve your clients and never have to worry about that $50,000 fine. Let's begin. Real proof is peace of mind. Here's some testimonies from my clients that we've helped build a baseline cybersecurity posture for. They all have one theme in common. They felt relieved, educated, and secure by utilizing our services. They understood the value we were bringing and how we could save them time, money, and most importantly, keep trust with their clients while building confidence and becoming audit ready. That's what it's all about. So the training that you're going to take today, I'm going to give you some deep information and things that you can do yourself immediately to implement to help protect your systems outside of what you already think you may have or not have. Cybersecurity not only builds a compliance shield, right? The requirements now is, again, to show what you actually are governing, the process you put on the paper, not just creating a fancy document, calling it a WISP, and handing it over to an auditor or your insurance company and hoping it'll pass. The regulators are looking for true governance, which means you state in your WISP that you back up your hard drive every 60 days and then test the data to ensure recoverability. They want the proof you did it. Show me the logs. Show me the timestamps. I walked into CPA offices a few weeks ago. The IT guy was swapping out their computers and installing new servers. Naturally, as an auditor over 20 years, I'm going to just sit back and observe what's going on. And as I was watching, I see the IT guy take the old servers and bag it. Okay, I'm thinking to myself, but then he does something unusual. He puts the servers in the box and tapes it up. My spidey sensors start to go off. What I like to call what's going on. So I walk over to him and I say, hey, I see that you're doing some swap outs and yada, 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 but what are you going to do with all those old desktops and the servers you're removing here from today? And, he simply looks at me and he says, well, we're going to take them back and dump them. And I'm thinking to myself, dump them how? There's a proper way when you're removing old computers or software to dump and making sure that no one has access to that data. And it almost felt like he was not going to do that. So, I can tell you the concern for me, he was not following the normal chain of custody and the methods of destruction. And that really kind of set me off. I did share my concerns with my client. But if you're not using a physical shredding or degaussing or cryptographic erase tool, you might as well just hand over a computer to somebody on the street and say, here you go, because that's not what the auditor is going to think when they come in. So let's talk about the $50,000 document trap. I just shared with you kind of two events where clients thought their IT guy was handling it and doing the right thing. That's a $50,000 mistake you cannot afford. And I'm going to repeat that. It's a $50,000 mistake you cannot afford. Again, the IT guy handles your connections, making sure your printer works and the internet is fast, your router firewall is installed properly, but they don't manage the system logs, the pain point of detection, the proof that the IRS and the FTC is requiring to show you're monitoring, detecting, and preventing your PII being exposed. You may have an MSP provider, someone who's come in and said, okay, we're going to protect your systems. We're monitoring it 24 hours a day. But there's a big gap in what some of these services provide and actually do. And I'm going to share some tidbits that I want you to look for and go back and ask them. If you have a service already deployed and you think they're protecting you, there are things that you need to make sure of, especially with the new changes in validating how vendors are and what vendors you currently have that are going to help protect you and also protect your client. Okay. Again, I saw one of my good clients lose their EFIN right in the middle of February because he had firewalls, but no signed or proof of access logs. That's a problem. The auditor doesn't care about your router. They care about your paperwork. So let's talk about the auditor's black box. When an auditor walks in, they aren't looking at your code. They're looking at these four things. Do you have logs? Is your user inventory clean? Can you prove your staff was trained? If you can't produce these on demand, you aren't compliant, period. When I walk into a prospective client, I'm observing behaviors, processes, and protocols that they have in place. I'm looking at how much paperwork they have left on the front desk while no one's around and the cleaning lady is wiping down the computers. I'm looking at the open file cabinets with the information exposed. I'm looking at the computer screens that are unlocked, right, because Mary went to go get her morning coffee. I'm looking at the laptop sitting at the front door with security cables not on it, right? Nothing protecting it, nothing stopping somebody walking through that front door when no one's around and grabbing it. I then take these observations and I go and I ask for the policy and procedures around these things that I observe. And that's what an auditor does as well. All auditors act the same way. They're going to do their observations of the physical environment, and then they're going to also go by the standards of what they need to test, but also include those observations. Right? I already know when I ask for that policy or that procedure, maybe about the laptop security, and I read it and I start asking questions, that they're not actually following what they wrote. They're not actually doing and enforcing what they said they were going to do. So if they're not getting a simple process right or correct, then I'm on high alert when it comes to things, especially when I'm testing their systems or looking at their actual WISP. A lot of people that I've come across in my field, they will have templates that they downloaded. And while some of these templates are more robust than others, it's not enough if you don't understand and you haven't completed them right, what's required and what's required to be captured and documented, let alone not having a risk assessment, which is required annually. An auditor, those are the two things they're going to ask for when they walk in. They're going to want to see your WISP. They're going to want to see your annual risk assessment and your pen test. And if you haven't had those three things done, then you are out of compliance, period. There is nothing that you're going to do or tell that auditor anything different. Let's talk about the IRS loophole. Let's get into the secret number one. I call this the loophole because you already pay for the tools you need to satisfy 80% of that audit. You just haven't turned on the switch yet. And you already have maybe a template that you're working from. So let's show you some things that you can do today that will help you, again, in 15 minutes to build a shield that will help you protect your business and your most important asset. Breaking the IT guy myth, right? Again, we talked about what the IT person does. And if you have an internal IT department, IT people do different functions. And if you don't have the resources to manage your cybersecurity, then you need to find someone or designate an external partner that can do that for you, because that's critical in today's world, especially with everything that's going on in the geopolitical world right now and the things that we're seeing in the cybersecurity space with threats and hacking, right? It's also about the truth, right? IRS, the mandates, the FTC, and all of the upgrades that they do. March is usually the biggest time of year where a lot of these mandates change and the new requirements come out, and we have to adapt to make sure that we're implementing those things throughout the year before they come in and start testing again. Because there's no leeway when it comes to stuff like this. Again, you need to protect your reputation, and you also need to protect yourself from violations and any kind of legal ramifications that come along with a breach or irresponsibility. And I'll say that lightly, right? You got to get your WISP. Make sure you sign it. I had a client who got a violation from the IRS because he had his WISP. We sent it over. He never signed it. Never signed it. They look at that. It's as good as telling the IRS, yeah, I have it, but they don't know if you're actually read it and are implementing it. And they don't care either. So let's talk about the WISP loophole, right? It's a live document. You need to sign and date it by whoever is responsible. And again, that's one of the things in the mandates. You need to designate a party who's responsible. If you're a one-person CPA, then that's you. Unless you have somebody externally handling your systems, you can designate that person, right? However, if you're up to 50, it's someone within your organization that can handle that for you. Make sure that you identify that person and it's written somewhere, because that's the person who needs to sign that WISP. They're taking ownership of everything that's in it. All the updates, any changes, anything that happens within that WISP, right? They're going to specifically look for MFA enforcement. Is MFA on all taxware, software, and email accounts? Meaning, is it locked down? Do you have multi-factor authentication? So when you log into a software, do you get a separate pop-up, whether it's facial recognition from your system, whether you set up a separate passcode to send you an OTP or a message via text? Make sure it is set up. That is critical on anything that you're touching. Data encryption. This is key. Okay. This all comes down to how you're protecting that data in transit and at rest. Anything that flows through your system, whether you're using Dropbox, whether you're using a software, whether you have a website, all of that information that's flowing through the internet, is it locked down? Especially your client's data. And that's where the vendor assessment comes in. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Annual training gets everybody, right? We all take annual training, but what they're specifically looking for is that you have documented, not only you, again, if you're a singular solopreneur, or if you have 50, 100, 1,000 employees, that you can prove that every single employee took their annual cybersecurity training. And there are probably about 9 critical ones that you need to do. And then there's also the phishing testing that you should be implementing and doing, if not once a year, quarterly, or at least semi-annually, okay? Designate that person, conduct your risk assessment. We talked about that. And there's 2 parts to a risk assessment. There's the questionnaire, and then there's the cyber risk assessment, which means your system has been tested. And any vulnerabilities, or what we like to call incident of compromise, have been identified. Gaps in your configurations, your network, whatever it might be, have been documented, captured, and you have a remediation plan in place to fix the things that are critical. Let's talk about an easy win. Phishing is now 90% of tax pros' problem. Anybody in the tax profession, especially season now. During the tax season, we see a high level of phishing attacks because you're distracted, okay? Inside your Microsoft Security Center, if you have Microsoft 365, whatever you're using, there's the first contact safety tip. Turn it on. It puts a giant warning banner on your email from someone you don't know. It's a digital seatbelt for your staff. The simple steps here, right? Go to your securitymicrosoft.com, click on policies and rules, click threat policies, anti-phishing, and under the rules section, scroll down, you're going to select, it's going to say spoof intelligent and ensure it's toggled on. Okay. In the same policy, check the box, show first contact safety tip. This warns you if an email is from an address you don't usually chat with. And that's critical, especially with BEC. Okay. It can identify if somebody has gotten to your system and is watching the traffic between you and your client and attempts to send an email from your system to that client from a different IP. This is very important. These are, again, easy wins for you to do. Let's talk about MFA setup. The step-by-step for Microsoft 365 and standard for all tax professionals. You go to admin.microsoft.com and you sign into your global admin account. Click on active users on the left side. Click multi-factor authentication button on the list. Select the user, click enable. And then just follow the steps. Ensure the status is changed to enforce. The user will be prompted to set up either their phone on the next login or however your system works. Some of the older Microsoft systems, if you're still on an older version, it'll work a little bit differently, but it's still the same concept. So just make sure, again, these are quick wins to do immediately today when you get off this training to protect yourself. So audit tracking and paper trail, right? Not doing the work isn't enough, right? You have to prove it. You need a compliance binder. If your WISP isn't signed and dated every year, it doesn't exist in the IRS. Export your MFA monthly reports. This is your proof of life for an auditor. And you can either do a physical binder if you want. I tell everybody to go digital. If you're using an external hard drive, create folders in that hard drive for all of the things that you need to track to show for proof, whether it be your access logs, your MFA, right? And, your MFA reports monthly, your employee training. It could be anything, right? Your actual annual pen testing, your WISP, your IRP plans. You should have it all categorized. Save it on a USB, detach it. Keep it somewhere safe, right? Somewhere where nobody can have access to, because that information on there is critical. And there are things in there that can, if a hacker is able to get through, they can use to help what we call lateral movement into your system and gain access to things that you don't want them to see. But again, designate a simple memo saying, this is the security person that's been designated, blah, blah, blah. That will hold up against the IRS. It's a memo to yourself, dated, signed, and who you designated. Let's talk about the AI vault. Hackers don't sleep at night. They use bots to scan your firm 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, especially if you have a website. That is probably one of your most critical things that you need to protect and lock down. Even if you use a CRM system, whoever you use to build your website, don't just rely on them. We see all of these companies getting hacked. We just had a major, major hack last week, large corporation. They wind up deleting massive amounts of data. It was all in the news. If they're able to get into a corporation that big that has probably a moderate cybersecurity posture, think about what they'll do to someone who is just a one person to 50 employees, right? You don't want to take that chance. The AI Agentic tool, AI, a lot of people are afraid to implement AI. They're scared of it. They don't know how to use it. But a lot of you kind of using it now, using ChatGPT, doing this, doing that, asking questions. It's dynamic, right? It learns as it goes. But there's difference and variances in the types of AI that you use. And you need to know that, right? But it's not just a tool. right? You can set an AI robot to act as a protector on your system. So it can watch and it can act as a protector. If someone tries to download 500 tax returns at 3 a.m. from an IP address in another country, the AI kills the connection before you even wake up. That's how important it is to kind of use AI today as an oversight. You need to implement things to be the 24/7 robot guard that watches your SSN data while you sleep. You know, I had a client call me last Friday at 9 p.m. at night. Her husband, who's not a client of mine, has an e-commerce store. His phone started to ping like crazy. And usually, you know, when you have a commerce store, that means you're getting sales. But when he got hit with over 30,000 pings within less than an hour, they knew they had a problem and they called me. Although he was not my client, we immediately determined that they were under what we call a bot attack. So AI is used for good and bad. But what we call a card for attack was hitting them right through their website. And if you have a website that accepts payments, this can happen to you. So what the hackers generally do, and I'm going to really kind of use layman terms, they steal thousands and thousands of credit cards. They'll go to any website, test it, and see if they can process these credit cards through your payment system. And once they get a valid card that goes through, then at that point, because they're watching your system, they'll actually take that card and start using it, right? It's fraud. But again, this is how it works. So the moral of the story is we had to shut down their website. We had to shut down their merchant services, and we had to rebuild everything for them, right? We had to clean their system from slate. They lost days of sales. And again, you as well, right? Again, if you're accepting payments from your clients through a website, you need to make sure it's protected. It's within the mandates and the IRS rules and the FTC. So let's talk about the invisible data leaks, right? The truth is, so security is only as good as the tools and humans that are sitting behind the desk monitoring what's going on, right? When you have systems in place, you have somebody that needs to monitor those systems and take a look at any alerts that pop out, potential hacks, the infiltration that's waiting to happen. They need to be able to identify what's popping up and decide whether it's a positive or a negative, right? True or false. If that person for a minute doesn't react quickly, you could have something that gets downloaded without them noticing or doing their due diligence and infiltrating your system. One of the biggest cybersecurity defense monitoring services that had 80% of the government contracts was hacked a year and a half ago, right? We all heard about that. That is a cybersecurity company that got hacked. Multi-billion-dollar company. If they can get hacked again, just think what the criminals can do to a small business or a solopreneur. This is why I'm teaching this class today, right? Hackers use bots to scam millions of small firms all at once. They don't look for, the names, they're looking for weaknesses. And that's what these bots are doing. The cost of a small business to recover from a breach today averages about $120,000 to $150,000. AI Agentic monitoring is only part of the key to building a secure perimeter and protecting your client's data. So let's talk about how to deploy protection, right? The old way, checking every email file for leaks, seeing if you should click on it, not click on it, not sure who that person is, not sure if it's clear, not sure if you should click on a download, right? If someone tries to download 500 tax returns at 3 a.m. from your IP from another country, the AI will kill that connection before you even wake up. This is about moving from hope to certainty. We're using ISO 2700 standards, the gold standard of security, and automating them. How it works for a CPA. The AI scans your email for phishing, fake emails try to steal passwords, and watches how data is shared. So the benefit, if an employee tries to email a spreadsheet full of social security numbers to a personal Gmail account, the robot pops up a warning saying, hey, this is sensitive data. Are you sure? And that helps you, especially with seasonal workers and people that are remote that you have no control what they're doing with the data that you're sending. It could be your bookkeeper, it could be anybody. Don't assume you're protected. You're responsible ultimately what that data and where it goes. The cyber task is monitoring. It monitors the data leakage and identifies the safety without you, the CPA, having to check a single log file or worry if that download is real or not. That's why this is very important, right? You can deploy the AI, you can give it instructions, tell it what to do, and it can help you monitor your systems. Again, 15 minutes, it doesn't take long. Let's talk about the technical setup from an AI agentic point of view, right? The setup requirements, it can identify key assets, right? Your paper trail for secret number 2 is all about behavioral baselines. When the IRS asks you how you monitor your data, you can show them these logs that the AI tool can create for you. You could show them the automated response history of an employee accepting or declining sending that spreadsheet. It proves you aren't just a passive person in your cybersecurity posture, but proactive defender. And that's critical. That's what they're looking for. We talked about governance. That is true governance, right? So a lot of you use maybe Taxstone is a platform a lot of small businesses use in their practices. You know, they have recently added AI features that act like an automated office manager, just so you know, right? And how it works, it uses AI to automatically sort client documents and, more importantly, track who has access to what. It ensures that only the right people are looking at private tax returns. It's like a digital filing cabinet that locks itself. If a task is missing a required security step like e-signature or encrypted upload, the robot flags it in a simple dashboard. And that's what this AI agentic implementation of DIY that you can do for yourself can do for you as well. It's monitoring. It's document security and access control. That's one of the critical things that the IRS and the FTC are looking at on audits today, right? Document security and access control, ensuring the firm stays compliant with 4557 automatically. And it's important that you can do that, right? Here's some wins for the DIY person to help you deploy and set up the tool that automates your protection and ensures clients' PII keeps safe. If you have an MSP provider handling this for you, there are 3 questions, and I talked about this earlier, you want to ask that are critical. And depending on their answer, you may want to find someone else. So, when you use an MSP, you're outsourcing the execution of the IT and your cybersecurity governance. But you cannot outsource the responsibility of that data. That is the differentiator here. You can provide a responsibility matrix, and that's what you want to ask them, that defines exactly what alerts your SOC operations center monitors 24 hours a day versus what is automated or ignored. Many firms assume that the MSP is watching everything. In reality, many MSPs are only monitoring. The up and down status is your server on. You need to know if they're monitoring behavior, red flags, ensure there is an active threat hunting, not just passive monitoring. And that's what you want to ask them. You want to ask them, what is your documented incident response plan for our firm? And what is your guaranteed SLA or service level agreement for containing a live threat? Something that they know is a potential breach. When a breach happens, every minute counts. I'm going to tell you that right now, right? And that is critical. You don't want to be negotiating who's responsible for what while your data is being exfiltrated. If they see that happening, you need to know that their time to detect and their time to remediate is on point. If their response time for a virus is the same as their response time for a broken mouse, 4 hours or 8 hours later, your firm is that you're at extreme risk. Bottom line, Who is responsible for the legal obligations like notifying regulators? You need to know that. Being that they're sitting on top and they're monitoring everything, do they have all your logs? Can they produce them when an auditor comes in? Can they prove that they've remediated and how they remediated things? If your MSP responds that we use, I don't know, ABC soft, antivirus, so you're 100% protected, well, that's a major red flag because no tool provides 100% protection. Security is about the people and processes behind those tools. So understand what you have and your contract with external vendors or CISOs or whoever you brought aboard to help protect your security posture. Let's talk about implementing AI oversight directly, right? Because it solves who guards the guards problem. When you rely solely on an MSP, you're trusting their internal logs. With AI Agentic, you have an independent autonomous system that monitors the MSP's action in real time, flagging anomalies before they become catastrophes. I always say trust but verify. The AI, when you implement in a DIY situation, can audit the MSP or audit the systems that you think you have in place and help you ingest and understand if there's any problems with those systems. You don't need to write Python, right? A lot of people think, oh, AI, I need to know all of this technical stuff. You don't. It's all about how you give instructions to the AI. It's system instructions, right? It's what we call prompt engineering. And, for those of you that use ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, whatever you're using today, there's so many of them out there. You need to make sure if you're using any one of those tools that you are on a professional level with them, one that is paid for. There is a difference between the free version and the professional version, and I see this all the time. I just had a bookkeeper who was just using regular ChatGPT, helping her calculate Excel sheets with information in it. And I'll tell you, what she needed to understand was regular ChatGPT or the regular free versions of any of these LLMs, they are using that information to learn. That's the difference between the paid version and the version that is free. If you're putting anything in those systems that's client related, you need to make sure you're using a paid version that does not ingest that information and use it for learning. That's the critical thing here, right? But there are a lot of different things that you can use. Microsoft Copilot Studio, the DIY for the leaders, allows you to build custom agents that connect directly to your Microsoft 365 log, SharePoint, your emails. You can ground these agents in your own firm's policies so they know exactly what a violation looks like. In Copilot Studio, use the Microsoft Graph API connector to feed the agent your sign-in logs and audit logs. It'll save it. It'll analyze it. It's very simple. You can even ask it to help you walk through the step-by-step setup to do these things, right? You can say, hey, check my tax data, my C drive for this, blah, 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 blah. And again, never save anything to your desktop. I don't know why people do that, especially information. Save it to an external hard drive and disconnect that hard drive at the end of the night. So if your system does get, or is, hacked or whatever, no one can see that data that you saved. And if you haven't done that, I always tell everybody, take all your folders, put them on that hard drive, disconnect it at night, plug it in, and access that hard drive in the day and keep saving to it, right? That is the safest way, especially when it comes to data. So you can also use the dark trace response known as the self-learning AI. It creates a pattern of life for your firm. If it sees a server being shut down or data being moved at an unusual time, it's going to take surgical action like locking a user's account in seconds without you even waking up. So again, these are some tools I recommend, but they're good tools. And a lot of them don't cost a lot. It's worth the investment. So the implementation checklist, this is the technical how-to, right? We sync the AI to your email and your tax server. We set the alert to high. That creates an uneditable log. This is what makes you audit proof. Okay. If you connect the AI to your email API, sync the AI with your taxware software, it could be anything, set level high to all PDF and XLA downloads, it's again going to do surgical review and keep an uneditable log of everything it did. And that's your audit proof. The system instructions for your auditor, right? You give it instructions, or again, system prompts. You tell it its role. That's the most important. You are an autonomous hardware and data auditor for your firm, and you put the name of your company. You tell it your objective it needs to execute. Your primary mission is to monitor Microsoft Graph API logs and my Microsoft Outlook email for any evidence of hardware decommissioning, server shutdowns, or data destruction that has not been formally approved. Very simple. What it will do is it'll create an operational logic, monitoring for discrepancies. Every time you receive a server offline or a device removed, an alert via the API immediately searches Outlook, inbox, and sent for keywords. Decommission, recycle, destroy, shred, or server bagging, right? That's what we call it. It's going to conduct verification checks. If a matching email from an authorized MSP contact exists, summarize the chain of custody plan and wait for the certificate of destruction to arrive. If no matching email exists within the last 48 hours, it will categorize this as a critical security anomaly and send an alert to you. That's the key. Now, your MSP, if you're using external, or your IT team, can implement these things and put this in place very easily as a second layer of defense. Don't rely again on the tools you have in place. I always say a second layer of defense is always the best defense in most cases. So, audit tracking. To use Microsoft Copilot for an agentic oversight, you essentially build in a specialized assistant in Microsoft Copilot Studio or Security Copilot that acts as an independent auditor for not only your MSP and your systems, but it allows the AI to reason through logs and take action, right? You don't, again, need to write code. You can use natural language to describe what the auditor needs to do. Tell the AI, you're a security auditor, monitor my Microsoft 365 audit logs and server health and server health alerts. If a server goes offline, and immediately check my Outlook calendar for maintenance entry. If nothing exists, send me an emergency alert to my managing partner. It could be anybody. You could send it to your MSP provider. You could send it to your IT team, whoever, your IT guy. But it can create something that helps you, right? It's your behavior baseline proof. And that's what this is all about. 15 minutes. It doesn't take long to do this. So let's talk about the ghost exit. So I see this happen all the time. I go and I conduct a risk assessment, run a script on all the users, and bingo! There's 5 people listed that don't even work for the company or were seasonal workers from last year. We call that the IRS proof fine, because that's exactly what they do. And they know this is the breach. The number one breach opportunity is having open access for those that no longer are with the company. They specifically look for this. I'm going to tell you, it's like one of their number one things. So let's talk about the 60-second ghost exit. Tax season ends, and all we want to do is collapse. But on April 16th, you have a massive security hole. Your seasonal staff, right? Or maybe somebody that you let go. Or maybe your bookkeeper you're not going to be using for the next 6 months. I don't know. Their logons are ghost credentials at that point. That's why we call it ghost, right? It's a ghost exit. If you don't vanish them, they are your back door waiting to be opened. This is a simple checklist, right? It's not complicated. Put a reminder on your calendar and take the action to do it. This is a 60-second proof protocol to ensure that when a staff member leaves, your liability leaves with them. Okay? I mean, it's very simple. But let's take it the next step, right? And we just talked about this. I want to share something with you, right? Let me tell you another story. I conducted a cyber risk assessment 2 weeks ago on a client. Sure enough, they had seasonal workers from last year from college helping them out during tax season crunch. The problem is that they were allowing them to access to their system server because they worked remotely and they never removed them. So this ex-employee could actually log in at any time and still have access to the client's data. When a seasonal worker keeps their credentials, they become a ghost user. That's what we call them. And that's what it actually shows up when we test. A high privileged account that sits dormant, invisible to overworked owners who are wide open for exploitation. I'll share with you another situation. Because this company failed to shut it down, 3 months after the fact, the employee's personal laptop is infected with malware at a coffee shop. Because he still had VPN and email access to this firm, the hacker used his ghost credentials to bypass the firewall, move laterally into the firm's main database, and exfiltrate thousands of clients' files without even triggering an alert. Because they had full access to credentials. So I want you to picture that, right? If you get to shut everything down, the kid unknowingly had his laptop out, right? Hacker, a lot of them sit in those little shops, wherever you might be. They interject what we call like a man in Miller. They watch your traffic and they're able to get in. And that's all they need. They had his credentials. So it didn't even happen through an actual attack. It's like they opened the door and gave it to him. As a business owner, you're responsible to plug the holes and take the action to prevent this from happening. You have to mirror the digital departure from your network. This is so critical. So let's talk about the exit, right? If you're doing this manually, you want to revoke the SaaS. Anything they have. You want to wipe PII, kill the VPN, any tax software, anything they had access to, you want to get rid of it. This isn't just deleting a user. It's a total scrub of the company data from their personal device. This is how you prevent post-tax breach, right? You don't know what they did. You could tell them, don't save documents. You could tell them only use this. You could tell them only use that. But people are human. They don't always listen. And I think we all know that. By syncing the AI to your email and tax server, you're creating a high alert. You can make sure that they are being watched. So if a user is active beyond their departure date, you could set this up in AI and immediately trigger what they call a kill switch workflow, the total scrub protocol. Your AI agent can do this for you. It can revoke all SaaS licenses, remotely wipe any PII, personal identifiable information from a known personal device used for remote work. It can kill the VPN connection and reset all credentials. And then a log and create a log that exactly timestamps these actions that is uneditable and audit-proof for your file. If you show that to the IRS, they're going to love you. I'm going to tell you that right now. They're going to say they're on top of their game. And that's really what we're here to prove, right? And they're protecting their country. Remember, it's proactive, not reactive. Use the tools that you have in your system that you can use very easily to set these things up. You can use this template again. You're going to get access to this to either train your AI or keep someone at, keep it somewhere as a visual reminder in your office. Set your calendar invite to April 16th. Keep this somewhere where you can see it. Put it on your back screen. I don't care where you have to. And make sure that you do this yourself. And again, if you're not comfortable, set up the AI to do it for you. You go in, you have that remote worker before you tell them bye-bye or you give them their last paycheck. You make sure that their system is wiped clean. So on tracking, right, what does it do? You're going to save disabled screenshot. You take a screenshot of your admin user listing showing the seasonal staff or whoever it might be that they're disabled in this status. And you'll save this to your April 16th compliance log or your folder that you built. You're going to run a report for seasonal IDs from May to June. Could be later, but I always say May to June, proving 0 login attempts, right? Because that's critical. You don't know what they saved. And then you're going to update your WISP, most importantly, seasonal offboarding protocol verified, and put the year. All access terminated, and put the name of the person that executed this on those people's systems. This is true governance. Let's talk about vendors, right? And there's a little bonus for you. It's your responsibility now for your vendors. The new mandates now require your firm to validate that your third-party vendor are actually protecting your third-party data. They put the onus on you. If your portal provider gets hacked, the IRS is going to look at you. You must have their SOC 2 report and a 24-hour breach notice in writing. You need to know what your vendors are doing to handle the problem. And that also includes your IRP plan. If you don't have one, create one. Your incident response plan, that is critical on top of your WISP. It's not mandatory, but it goes hand in hand. How many of you really know what to do? And if you just answered, I have no idea, you better go create one or go, use your whatever AI tools to create one and get an idea of what that response ability is for you, your company, and your employees, right? So here's a quick checklist and questions that you should ask every vendor. You should add this to your WISP to show proof you have completed your due diligence and can prove that you vetted the vendors and they comply. Review your contract annually, or if it's every 2 years, review that contract and ensure you are protected. You want to know how they handle a breach and notification and who's responsible. That is the critical key here, okay? You need to request a SOC 2, type 2 requests. Do you have an independent audit report from their security? That's what this is. You need to tell them and find out if your encryption is guaranteed. Verification that data is encrypted, both at rest and in transit. They need to provide you with that. It'll list their systems and how it was tested. The breach timeline. That's most important. A contractual promise to notify you of a breach within 72 hours. And now I think the new FTA rules just updated to 30. I got to go look at it, but I think within 30 days, you got to notify all legal and compliance and everything else. So make sure that you understand what those protocols are. Access control. Do they allow you to enforce MFA on their software? Those are the 4 critical things that you should be finding out from your vendors. Again, this is DIY. It goes a lot deeper than that. The new mandates require at least these at minimum, along with your IRP plan and everything else. But it's proof that you vetted that vendor. Are they financially sound, right? What's the likelihood of them going out of business? Have they had any breaches or incidents on their systems? What do they do to remediate? Have they had a recent audit from an external auditor? Were there any findings? These are all questions that you can ask those vendors, and they are required by law to divulge and give to you. So, vendor questionnaire. Don't just email them. Store their responses in a central vendor vault. Again, externally, put it in a binder. Auditors want to see the actual answers provided by your SaaS providers. They want to see it, right? And if you don't know what a vendor questionnaire is and you don't have no idea outside of the questions I just gave you, you should go look it up, right? SOC 2 review memo. Create a one-page memo, again, for your major vendors, Drake, Microsoft, whoever you're using, and state that you've reviewed their security posture in the current year. Termination proof. Keep a record of when you stopped using a vendor, and proof that you requested your data to be deleted from their servers. I'm going to repeat that you requested that your data be deleted from their servers, and they have provided you proof, whether it be in an email, whatever it might be. Again, in your contracts that you sign or re-sign with them, you should make sure that that clause is in there. Okay? So, the law of the land, we all know about the FTC. We all know that the new mandate that they put into place is that now when you certify for your PTIN, EFIN, right, whatever you want to call it, you are certifying that at minimum you have that WISC and that risk assessment done. It is your license to practice and keep your license. If you have not done that, please reach out to somebody, right? You can reach out to me. I can certainly help you, but reach out to somebody and get it done. If you have not updated your WISP, or you think you have done it yourself and you think it's good, have somebody do a review on it. Validate it. Read through it. Make sure you're following what's in it. Make sure you understand. Because again, the last thing you want to do is sign a document and it not be true. Okay? So, I hear this a lot. I don't have time for this. I get this all the time, whether it be an existing client or a new client, right? The IRS doesn't care if you are a one-person firm or a multi-million-dollar conglomerate. They treat the audit the same, and how you have complied to those same standards is important to them. They expect the small business to be in compliant and designate someone to lead their cybersecurity infrastructure and have controls in place. Right? The old way is spending hours a month worrying, reading IRS PDFs, going to tax symposiums and listening and, understanding and trying to implement yourself. That's the old way, right? Let us handle that for you, right? We'll handle the tech and you handle your clients and billing them. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that and what we offer, right? The audit-proof build-up. Imagine for a second, a week before tax season, you get the audit notice, and it happens. They want your WISP, your logs, your training records. Now you got to stop what you're doing in the middle of tax season. You got to gather everything, or if you have a team, you got to ask them to gather everything. You got to get ready, right? You're starting to panic because you don't even know what's on this stuff. You don't know if you're giving them the right information. Those of you that have been through audits may have an idea, understand, and you learn from it year over year, but everything changes year over year. The new criteria, the new testing, the new review, all of that, the observations, it all changes year over year. As an auditor, we always change our methods because we're advancing. So remember that, right? You don't want to be, again, and I'll just call him Joe for the sake of it, and that wasn't his name, my client 30 years, who literally had his EFIN revoked and suspended in the middle of tax season because he did not have access logs. He's still trying to fix that, and I'm helping him. Even though it's not something that we produce, it was something he thought his IT guy handled. With our shield, the cybersecurity shield, you'll have an auditor, a clean binder, right? You'll have everything that you need to do to be safe and audit ready. So, if all this training did today was guarantee your EFIN stays active for the next 10 years, give you 100 hours a year of worry time back, provide legal protection to sleep through the IRS inquiry, protect the legacy of your firms you spent years building from a single seasonal mistake, ensure your family's financial security isn't threatened by a $100,000 regulatory fine, and finally walk into your office with absolute confidence that you're 100% bulletproof. Would it be worth it? And I'm going to ask that again. Would it be worth it? So stop drowning in the red tape, everybody, right? What would this cost to you to give you peace of mind? So today I put together a special offer for anybody who's attending this webinar, and even for those that see this later on. Because I want you to be a part of a revolutionary AI system that I'm building to make your life easier. It's with a click of a button. And have and be ready and compliant for all of your next audits. If you could just imagine a system that you can click a button, it's on your system, you're in control of it, you're in control of all of your employees, all of your endpoints, all of your datas, and it's monitoring this system 24 hours a day, what would that be worth to you? I'm going to show you the system, right? So I'm building a new AI compliance system that can be deployed directly on your system. It will automatically read your system, identify all the gaps within the compliance arena. It's built against 20 plus cybersecurity frameworks. It allows you to produce reports on demand. It allows you to do risk assessments with the click of a button on your own entire system, and all of your employees gather that, provide you with a dashboard. It allows you to take a look at where the critical risks are. It gives you information on how to remediate that so you can hand that off to your MSP. It builds policy and procedures based on your systems, your network, anything, your software that you're using. So imagine that being available to you. Imagine it gathering all your folders and documenting and putting them in what we call an evidence vault for your IRS auditor to look at, to prove to them that you've done everything and you're proactively monitoring. The tool also has the vendor risk assessment in there, the questionnaire. You send that, you deploy it via invite to your vendors. They fill out the questionnaire, it ingests, it captures, they upload the documents. You can upload the documents straight to, and then it puts it in your vault. It'll do the assessment for you and tell you whether they feel it is at high risk, this vendor, or not. That's critical, right? Especially in our environment. It'll give you a recommendation. But also, it'll show proof that you vetted your vendors, which is critical today. That's the new change, right? Not only a WISP, not only the risk assessment, but the vendor oversight, critical. It's monitoring frameworks. So when a new law or a new rule passes, it's automatically going to ingest that, take a look at your entire system, and it will update each of the areas that impact. So if it's a new question or a new oversight that needs to be implemented, it'll automatically do that for you. It'll let you see additional businesses and add additional businesses onto this that you want to also monitor. It gives you all types of reporting, right? But this is a one and done system for you. It takes the guesswork out of everything, right? And we're going to be rolling out this system over the next couple of months, probably within the next month and a half. So what I'm offering today is a 3-month trial, right? If you bring us on board, We're going to give you a 3-month trial to this new system. You'll be the first to be using a system that's all in one and done, built for firms, especially small businesses. You'll never have to worry. Let's look at what it'll cost you to build a cyber shield, right? If I had to deploy this today and you had to do all of this to protect your business, you're looking at about $8,000, right? To do everything that you need to do on your own. This is probably what it's costing you individually, based on the time of hours it takes you to get all of this ready and do everything. Okay, if not more. I want you to think about that. How much is your time worth? If it took you, 3 days to do a WISP and you spend 8 hours a day, that's 24 hours. 24 hours, and let's say you charge $500 an hour, do the math. How much money are you saving yourself by having a tool that will help you do everything in a matter of minutes and continuously monitor and update? You'll never have to worry, oh, do I need to re-sign my WISP? Do I need to change this policy? Did it do the ghost kill? Did I do this? Did I do that? It will do everything for you. And that is peace of mind, right? So I will tell you, again, for this web class today, what I'm offering is a free risk review of your current security posture. Even if you have a WISP, if you have anything in place, let us come in, let us look at it, we can validate it. If you used another service, that's great. Go back to them, have them look at it again. If you did it yourself, you should definitely have somebody validate what it's doing and what's in there. Don't take the chance, okay? Here's what you're going to get: a free risk review. And I'm only offering this to the first 20 participants. That's a saving of $297. And then be the first to try our compliance platform for 3 months, free, when it rolls out, once you were signed on as an actual client of ours, right? It's expert in creating a cyber shield, real-time posture tracking, full cyber gap analysis, done for you WISP and IRP plans, and it's audit ready. Continuous tracking and proof. That's the critical here, right? So I'm going to drop a link in our chat right now. But where you want to go is www.cardinalsbites.com/shield. Okay. Again, I'll drop that link in the chat for everybody. So this way you have it. And I just put it in the chat. So with that said, what questions do you have? Let me take a look at some of the questions that may have popped up in the chat today. So one of the questions that I have is, my IT guy says that, we're covered, we're monitored, we have firewalls, we have everything, we don't have to worry about a breach. Well, you know what? Again, I'm going to probably put this in perspective for you. I understand that I work with a lot of IT people, right? But there's a difference between IT and cybersecurity. And even though you have all of those great little things in place, when I go in and I do my cybersecurity risk assessment and I take a look at the configurations, because that's what we have to do, and I understand what access is allowed on your router, your VPN, whatever it might be, your firewall that you have set up, and I see that they're still at default passwords because they never changed it, you're in violation. That's open access. A hacker can easily get through your system. So I hope that answers your question. And I'm not here to scare anybody. I'm here to educate. And the truth of the matter is IT and cybersecurity are critical today. They work hand in hand. We both need to balance each other and help each other. When we have findings, we give it back to you, right? It's your responsibility to go remediate. So if you have an IT guy and we tell you, listen, your firewalls are, configured incorrectly, you go to that IT guy and he needs to fix it. It's not us fixing it. We're telling you what the problem is in your systems and your cybersecurity posture. We're helping you build that compliance baseline. So next year, when we come back and do that test again, it's cleaner. And generally, I'll share with you, it takes probably 2 or 3 years to get on a steady build where you have less and less remediation tasks to do. And now you become really cyber compliant and we move on to the maintenance factor, right? Just protecting, monitoring, updating, and doing things that are normal within that cybersecurity posture. So again, I'm offering the first 20 people, and I already see, because we're monitoring, we have about 12 people that have already signed up. The first 20 people, go to www.cardinalbytes.com/shield. We have about 8 slots left open today to get your 15-minute Cyber Shield risk review. Again, book an appointment. Let me take a look at what you have. Let me help you identify the things that you have to remediate and take that off your plate. I have no further questions. So with that said, if there's any vocal questions, I'm open to questions. Anybody that's attending today, you can raise your hand. I don't see any actual questions coming through. Oh, another question popped up. The WISP template that I have, I downloaded, and I'm not sure if I did this correctly, but it was talking about classifications as far as threats. Can you explain what the classification is? Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about classification and threats. When you're classifying something, there's 2 parts of that question. So there's classification of your assets, meaning your software, your networking, and all of that, the tools, routers, and all of that. And then there's classification of what a threat might be. So your payroll, right? Can a hacker get in? You're classifying that. Is that high critical? What system you use? What would be the remediation, right? And the protocols. So there's different types of classification depending on what it is that you're actually saying that you have exposure to. So without really knowing which one you're asking, but I hope that explains. And I do a whole training if you go to cpaacademy.org on building a WISP. It's a free class. You should go and take it. You should listen to it. It's a great training, and it literally walks you through step by step on how to do that. Again, give me a call, book a 15-minute session. I could do a review of it in a matter of seconds and tell you, this needs to be updated. This is what this means. Call us. We're here. We're here to help you. So one of my partners, he wasn't on the call today. He wasn't able to actually make it to the call, and that's okay. But he is in the top 1% of podcasts, and he also has Diaries of a CFO, which he shares a lot of information, especially around the AI tools that we talked about today. He does the training. He can help you train, create, teach you how to do the prompting, how to set these up in your systems. I can tell you can reach out to him at any time, send him an email. He is fantastic. His name is Adam Oley. I worked with him for a long time, and he has fantastic insight onto AI and the skills and what it is to set these systems up automatically as a DIY to help you, again, to protect your systems. So I want to say thank you to everybody, right? Thank you all for joining us today. I appreciate you taking the time. I do not see any other questions. I do see all 20 slots are full, so that's great. I will share with you before you get off the phone, even if you see this after the fact and you go to the replay, certainly just go ahead and go to Cyber Shield, fill out. We'll get back to you. go ahead and get that assessment because it's important to everybody. So I don't want to limit it. I realize that now that anybody can actually do the assessment and it will help you. But thank you very much and have a great day.